Welcome, everyone, to the Earn First podcast. My name is Arun Sudhaman. I'm founding editor at Earn First. And we are incredibly honored today to be joined by Madan Bahal, who's the co founder and managing director at Ad Factors PR. Madan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you very much for having me here.
Madan, of course, is not really someone who requires much introduction in the public relations world. He has built Ad Factors into by a considerable distance India's biggest public relations firm, um, and indeed one of the biggest in Asia as well. AdFactors remains independent. The PR arm was launched in 1997 after the company was initially established as an advertising agency in 1981. And I think what is very interesting always about AdFactors, Madan, and we can start here if it's okay with you. Um, this is a consultancy that, despite whatever turbulence there is in the market, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's economic uncertainty, has maintained a consistent growth rate, double digits, often 15 to 20% every year for many years. I'm sure you can tell me how many years, but I can't recall a year, except perhaps maybe the first year of the pandemic, but maybe not. I can't recall a year when Ad Factors didn't record that kind of a growth rate. And I wanted to know what it is about Ad Factors that has enabled the agency um, to be so consistent when there is so much turbulence and there are so many firms that are finding it difficult to grow every year.
You start with a difficult question, Arun, but I'll make an attempt. It's true that we have grown through 28 years of our existence, and that includes the dot-com bust, that includes the Lehman Brothers crisis, that includes the pandemic, and many other ups and downs, both internal and external. Um, I think that kind of a thing happens when there is a consistent commitment to that idea of growth. Uh, at that point, growth becomes a culture of the organization, and it's not about one person. The efforts of many people are involved in pursuing this idea, even in very difficult years when it was really challenging. We have converted that culture into rituals, into
Mhm.
processes, and it is out of those rituals that those outcomes come. I'll give you one example. Sometime in 2018, about 7 years ago, we lost an important client, and there were 6 or 7 different teams which were drawing revenue from that one client, and there was a certain sense of gloom. And we said, why not turn this around into an opportunity? This little adverse situation. Why don't we start meeting as a team, some senior people, every day from tomorrow, and work on this idea of continuous growth? And whatever we have lost this month, we should make up for that every month, if possible. Out of that, a small team called NBD Anonymous, New Business Anonymous, like Alcoholic Anonymous, was born. It was an anonymous team with no KRA, no formal structure. They just came together to help the firm uh, navigate growth all the time. You will be
Mhm.
surprised to know that it is more than 7 years and 1 month, 7 years and 2 months nearly. This team has met every single day of 7 years, except holidays,
Mhm.
at 8:45 in the morning to 9:15 in the morning. Now, when a group of 12, 15 senior people come together and share a morning together on a simple idea like growth, and sharing ideas, sharing leads, sharing advice, that results in growth. So this is
Mhm.
one part of it. The second part is a little personal to me. I'm the head of the organization in some ways, along with my co-founder Rajesh Chaturvedi. I have this continuous sense of vulnerability, so to say. in the
mm,
changing world. I feel vulnerable all the time,
mm,
and this morbid fear of becoming irrelevant. And somehow
mm,
the idea of growth and relevance go together. That if I am growing, it means I'm relevant, and if I'm not growing, it means I'm not relevant anymore.
mm.
It might
Yeah.
sound harsh, but I think if you explore that truth long enough, it means if you are not growing, you're not relevant as much as you were in the past. It requires continuous hard work, continuous commitment. You have to keep doing something new all the time.
Mm,
Some new experience, experiment, some open space you see, some expertise you upgrade. It is not one single strategy. It is a series of tactical initiatives which become the strategy. Tactics,
mm,
series of tactics become the strategy. You have to do
mm,
it uninterrupted for a long period of time. But lastly, I think one has to thank God, of course, and thank the business ecosystem of India for placing trust in an organization for 28 years, where it has been a part, it has had a ringside view or a front seat in all the significant corporate events of, or most of the significant corporate events of the country, and we
mm,
played a part somewhere or the other, directly or indirectly, behind or in the front. That that uh, that confidence of the ecosystem in the firm and the clients in the firm has helped us quite a lot. So growth is not a simple answer, but a lot of things go into it, and I'm grateful to my own internal colleagues and the clients and every other well-wisher who
mm.
has supported this over a long period of time.
It's very interesting because you touched on a number of things in that answer, including the importance of consistency, the importance of habits built up over a period of time, the new business anonymous idea, which to extend the analogy, maybe even reflects an addiction to growth, which is not necessarily which is not unhealthy. I would say, like you said, I do think that uh, without growth, you can question relevance. Like many independent firms, AdFactors also brings quite a significant commitment to its people. It has, I think, a unique culture amongst public relations consultancies. Do you ever worry that the focus on growth, even if it is an addiction or not, maybe it attracts a certain type of person at AdFactors? Do you feel sometimes that it's incompatible with some of the values of newer generations entering the workforce?
Yeah, there could be some of those issues, but the responsibility of growth is on the elders. It
Mm,
is not democratized to the account executive or account manager. They just have to do a good job in whatever they are supposed to do, like good people, good soldiers. But leadership has to take accountability for growth. And when you
mm,
say leadership, it is level one leadership, level two, level three, two, three levels of layers of leadership, right up to an account director, senior account manager, has to be invested in the idea of growth, because we're finally business leaders. We
mm,
are consulting profession, but finally leadership is about business. And if your business is not keeping pace, the empowerment for doing whatever you do for even people within the organization, to keep them continuously updated, keep them continuously informed, continuously relevant, that empowerment or strength comes from growth itself. If you don't grow, there is a general sense of gloom. People start looking out for jobs, and therefore, if you see AdFact is having people for a very, very long time committed, some for 18 years, some for 20 years. And there are few people who have been here for 40 years, which started with the advertising agency. 40 years, one job. That comes from this notion of a sense of well-being that comes with growth. So I don't think the two are contradictory.
mm,
In fact, growth supports a larger sense of well-being and the power to do things for your own stakeholders, internal stakeholders included. That is helpful.
mm. You mentioned the notion of vulnerability, which I thought was quite a candid reflection. And you also made some remarks at the Eco Summit last year in Mumbai, just around 2 months ago, in fact. You had 15 minutes, and I would say you potentially stole the show during those 15 minutes. Not only did you talk about some of the lessons you've learned in terms of building ad factors, but you mentioned you put it into the context of the broader malaise across the public relations industry, whether that's in India or globally. And you said that you were scared and struggling. So how does that align with the fact that ad factors remains healthy, remains strong, but the industry, you perhaps would not say the same thing in terms of the overall industry growth rate?
Yeah, it's a difficult question to answer. I will take recourse to the headlines in the trade media. If you
Hmm.
follow the trade media from the beginning of March, beginning of 2023, that's the post pandemic, post chat GPT, post climate, post Ukraine, post everything world, where the normal became abnormal and set itself back to a new normal, so to say. That
Hmm.
new normal was not the normal that we knew. If you find the broad headlines of the PR industry, every quarter since 23, first half of 23, going into second half, then every quarter 24, every quarter of 25, there is a progressive deterioration of performance reflected in those headlines.
Hmm.
And I'd shown some of those headlines in a sequential, in a chronological order at the Eco Summit. And the paradox was that in these 3 years, the complexity has grown in the world.
Hmm. Yeah.
Technically, it means more clients have more problems, which need more solutions to engage or effectively deal with the stakeholders, which
Hmm.
means technically more business for the public relations firm.
Hmm.
Now, while the opportunity in that context seems an exploding opportunity or an exponential opportunity, we are finding the PR industry at a global level. Well, there are exceptions. Some good firms have grown, some have grown by acquisition, some have grown organically also. But it is not true for the larger order.
Hmm.
Well, we now also see the same thing happen to advertising agencies. We are seeing the
Hmm.
same thing happen to social media agencies. So there is a kind of disconnect between what is happening in the world and what is happening to the public relations firm. That paradox needs to be resolved, and I think the I don't have all the answers. I only have questions before me, but like everybody
Hmm.
is struggling, I am also struggling here. I'm also
Hmm.
scared, and that sense of vulnerability comes from there. So we are doing everything we can, but the core part of the business doesn't seem to be changing as fast or as rapidly enough as it should to transition to a new world order. So we are
Hmm.
doing things, we are building newer capabilities, newer competencies, newer expertise areas in a
Hmm.
relative sense to keep the fire burning. We have had a CAGR of 17 or 18% for for 28 years, for 20 years,
Hmm.
for 15 years. Any period you take, we have maintained that CAGR.
Hmm.
I am very keen and I am very curious on how to make that CAGR work in the new normal. It looks
Hmm.
like we will salvage this year, we salvaged last year, and we want to, if I have my way, I would like to do 20% next year onwards. That would be
Hmm.
the test of relevance. That would be the
Hmm.
test of a firm that has come to terms with the new world order. And I'm committed, and my senior colleagues are committed to that idea.
It sounds like this exploding opportunity, as you describe it, is not necessarily resulting in the kind of growth that it should do for public relations consultancies when you consider um, all of the kind of reputation, communications, corporate affairs challenges that exist in the world today. This should be bringing business to PR consultancies. Are you finding that you have been able to capture some of those opportunities over the last couple
Yeah.
of years?
Yeah, I think
Um,
yeah, correct.
yeah, go ahead.
I think the transition that my firm, our strategy for a good 20 years was becoming the staying the gold standard in earned influence.
Hmm.
It was a simple one sentence strategy that in a society or a country which has a very complex media environment, being the gold standard in earned influence is the most significant thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
We maintained that and we strengthened our position every passing year. In the post pandemic world, that is important and yet not enough. You need to increase your consulting competence, and from a traditional reactive media relations driven firm, we are moving to reputation and a critical issues advisory. Now, a lot is packed in those three words: reputation and issues. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Both are at the intersection of media, a new paradigm of earned influence in the world, which has changed in the last 3, 4, 5 years. We
Mm-hmm.
have, there is no organization of any size that I know which doesn't have a problem with the capital market or an aspiration in the capital market. There is simply no organization that doesn't have a policy problem that
Mm-hmm.
it wishes to do something about. There is simply no organization which is not worried about a reputational challenge happened yesterday or unfolding today or could happen tomorrow. There are so many other disruptions which are impacting organizations very many different ways that I see an abundance of opportunity in those issues. So there's an
Mm-hmm.
exponential, two sides of the same coin. Exponential opportunity, and if you don't seize that, there is an existential threat. Both
Mm-hmm.
are operating at the same time. And our effort has been to move into this intersection of media and markets and policy and other critical issues and change. We have not done a great job yet. I can honestly say we have made some progress. We are committed to the idea, but the progress is slow. We need to uh, accelerate it.
Mm-hmm. Two sides of the same coin. Part of it, of course, is about how consultancies evolve. No doubt that involves investment in certain areas, including talent. But part of it is about the market in general as well. And if we focus on India specifically for the moment, the Indian PR industry is, I think, around valued at around 330 million US dollars, let's say. Ad factors, of course, is about 15% of that
Yeah, maybe a
value,
little more. Yeah, little
maybe
more.
a little more. But it's a nation of 1.42 billion, and a persistent challenge has been that communication seems undervalued in India, whether it's earned influence or whether it's even more upstream areas like reputation and issues advisory. How do you solve that challenge, if at all?
I think you made a very good point about it is really a contradiction of sorts that a nation of 1.4 billion has a PR industry of 330 million, as I said, which would roughly translate to 20 cents per capita or 25 cents per capita. In contrast to the United States, which has
Hmm.
probably an industry of $6 billion
Hmm.
and a population of 300 million, which gives it
Right.
$20 an American.
Yeah.
So 25 cents to $20 is a huge delta. And
Yeah.
if I were to set on behalf of this industry an agenda, I would say, can we at least become a $1.4 billion industry,
Hmm.
which from 330
$1.
million is a 4 or 5 times jump, and that jump should happen yesterday, today, not
Hmm.
not tomorrow. So of course the industry has to take some responsibility. That is how it evolves to solve more complex needs, more complex problems, more needs. You cannot beg for a seat at the table, you cannot beg for respect, you cannot beg, you have to earn it.
Hmm.
So if we evolve in a manner that solves real world problems for the clients, I think there is enough opportunity.
Hmm.
I think there is a responsibility on the client side too.
Hmm.
There are many businesses who in a, I think it may be true for other societies as well. Uh, but it's true for India that the value of reputation as a competitive advantage,
Hmm.
the value of reputation to compete better for talent or compete better for customers, compete better for policy, compete better for natural resources, reputation becomes a tailwind for competitiveness across stakeholder groups,
Mm.
across various things that an organization seeks. I think this wisdom, though intellectually known, hasn't translated into that understanding in the boardroom of India.
Mm. Yeah.
It is only when a crisis comes or only when there is a significant issue that the board or the CEO says, "Oh, let's talk about public relations. Can we do something?"
Mm.
Nobody has a clue of what the scope and breadth and width of what public relations agencies can do to create value for a company to make it more competitive. If that soul
Hmm.
searching happens inside a client organization, at the leadership level, at the C-suite level, I think the outcomes would be very good for the client itself, for the company itself, and of course,
Hmm.
in turn, for the PR consultancy or the comms teams who are serving that purpose.
Mm.
So there is a soul searching required on both sides, and I'm sure as this will happen eventually. The market forces, the complexity will drive it. But if people migrate to it faster, it will be good for everybody.
How complicit do you think clients are in this state of affairs? Because we've run multiple roundtables in the past where we've brought together senior clients, and the observation often is that don't necessarily feel like they don't necessarily feel confident that public relations consultancies um, are providing the kinds of services that they want. Number one, and number two, underpinning that, sometimes there remains this notion, I feel, that communications is viewed as more of a cost um, than a value driver. And this isn't unique to India, by the way, but I think it may be more pronounced in India. And I don't necessarily see a lot of proactivity on the side of clients to change that state of affairs. And that's difficult, of course. Let's not pretend that's an easy shift to make. When you're talking about India Inc., and you're talking about a function that is not necessarily always at the highest levels of an organization. What's your advice to someone in the comms role in house in terms of how they can change that perception to be seen as a driver of value rather than just a cost that can be tapped for reactive insurance when a crisis hits?
I think the two teams have to rise together. The comms
Mm.
team and the PR firm have to rise together to make their relevance felt by being useful to the people who are running the ship in the client organization. One of the ideas that we are working very actively on is the, uh, let's say, identification of risk.
Hmm.
Can we democratize the understanding of risk across our organization? That a business risk will eventually result into a reputational risk, because
Hmm.
reputational risk is not a risk by itself; it is a derived risk.
Hmm.
Now there is a multiplicity of risks in the world that we live in, and if we can identify these risks in advance and go to the board, go to the CEO, go to the C suite and say, well, this can be very expensive, we need to mitigate it. So it's not a reactive counsel anymore or reactive action anymore. Risk counsel will have to be rooted, for example, in the risk register that the client or the board maintains. It will
Hmm.
have to be a continuous scan of the emerging risks of various kinds. And if you can take it to the client, I'm giving a simple thing related to reputation.
Hmm.
If the PR industry evolves significantly, rapidly in this understanding of risk and potential solutions, I think it should do better. Of course, there is other things, critical issues. What are the five policy challenges this company is dealing with?
Hmm.
why is the stock of this company undervalued in the market?
Mhm.
Why is it not able to raise money at better rates compared to its competition? What are the three other things that are likely happening in some part of the Latin America today that might have a bearing on this organization? We are seeing that game happening all the time. Something happens
Mhm.
somewhere, and somebody is impacted here. Uh, I think this broader understanding the larger business environments, the complexity, but then relating it to reputation, then relating it to a stakeholder, then finding a communication agenda, then creating a solution, then going to the board with the solution, and then executing that solution, which is not the same as the traditional media relations program.
Mm.
Unless this migration happens, the going will continue to be difficult.
Mm.
And both the client comms teams and the agency have a combined joint responsibility to break this barrier.
Yeah. So, just one more quick question on this before we move into what ad factors will do next. When you look at your most important client relationships, how many of them are with the comms head and how many of them are higher up in an organization with a CEO or someone at a equivalent C-suite level? And I'm curious to know how much of a factor that is in terms of this equation.
I think it's a good question too. Our best and most stable relationships over a long, I would say, our large, best and stable relationships over a long period of time are where the comms and the senior managements are together involved in that whole process.
Yep.
It's not one against the other. It's not only
Hmm.
that you're dealing with comms with a complete, let's say, out of sight of the senior leadership. And it is not that only you're dealing with leadership and not with comms. The comms and you have to be a joint team that engages the. And we're finding that, in fact, now it's an interesting dynamic that in the last year and a half or 2 years, we have now at least 8 or 10 boards who call us periodically for a review. Boards in a board meeting.
Hmm.
15 minutes allocated to ad factors to come and make a point of view. What is happening?
Hmm.
What is the risk? What are we finding? Do you have any intelligence? Do you have any insight? And in 15 minutes, you come, make a point, hear something out, hear a mandate or an agenda, and go away. There are
Hmm.
multiple client CEOs where calendarized meetings happen every quarter to
Hmm.
discuss precisely some of these things. We don't talk tactical programs, but generally a sharing of views on what is happening and what is not happening around the world, and what could they be doing.
Hmm.
There's an interesting perspective that, I mean, there's a definition of public relations that says perception or good reputation is 90% built by good behavior and 10% by communications. That I
Correct.
think
Yeah.
is coming into play now
Hmm.
in full measure. So you
Yeah.
have to help the client organization uh, preempt risk, mitigate
Hmm.
risk, and proactively work to build certain capabilities, certain powers in advance, so that
Hmm.
should a day come like that, they're better off, and they remain competitive with their stakeholders at all periods of time. So there's another point, which is a broader point for every business in India, uh, which has a large number of stakeholders. I would imagine every $100 million plus company, or 1,000 crore plus company, or $1 billion plus market cap company. There's an important point. If reputation has become so critical, if reputation has such dire consequences if things go southwards, then managing reputation is a deliberate, long term process. How
Hmm.
much are you investing in managing reputation or building reputation? For a
Yeah.
nation of 140 crore people with 10,000 newspapers, 1,000 television channels, and a million influencers, with with I would say sometimes low rigor, journalistic rigor, sometimes low journalistic
Hmm.
rigor, and a poor redressal to the judicial ecosystem. how much should you invest in
Mm.
managing reputation, which is so critical? So what
Mhm.
happens is people make a provision of $5,000 per month. This is my
Mm.
retainer fee, and then everything that qualifies under the area of public relations you have to do for $5,000. It is simply unviable. It
Mm.
it simply won't achieve much, and
It
therefore there is a need for businesses to take a fresh look at the investment in which they should make in managing reputation and other critical issues. That's the message I have.
absolutely, and I think it comes back to this the age old issue of that argument would be easier to make if we could attribute a dollar value to an organization's reputation, um, and even be able to demonstrate how that fluctuates, whether in terms of reputation leading to a loss in that value, how that value can increase, and indeed how that then impacts other key business metrics.
I
Um,
think we have evidence of that every now and then. Every month there
mm,
is something that impacts an organization, and the next thing we know, it market cap has taken a hit. That's the
yeah.
most direct, visible sense, and
Yes.
particularly if it's a governance related things, then it impacts even more.
Yeah.
So there is a relationship between the two.
Of course. So let's talk about ad factors a little bit to close the conversation. You are, of course, the undisputed market leader in India. You're, I think, bigger than the next five firms combined, or something along those lines. Um, so far, though, most of your activity has been confined to India. Do you have any plans for that to change? Do you plan to do more outside India? Perhaps even consider acquisitions or acquihires in other markets?
I would be cautious in the answer. Uh, I think the market opportunity in India itself is so significant and so large, particularly where we stand,
Hmm.
that we should remain steadfast to our commitment to this to this market and not dilute our management bandwidth
Mm.
for smaller gains across other territories or regions where where the where there is the sense of proportion between reward and effort is not adequate. So
Yes.
we'll be cautious there, and yet we'll have to be open to the possibilities, more
Mm.
from the points of view of learning, more from the points of view of access to talent, and there might be even some growth opportunities out there. So
Hmm.
those possibilities are open. So far, Adfactors has grown organically.
Hmm.
The 18-17% CAGR that we have so far maintained, and I hope we are able to maintain that for the next decade or so every year. Um,
Mm.
we have therefore the wherewithals to now think of a little inorganic growth to push our growth a little further, both in terms of growth, in terms of evolution, learnings, experience of such new businesses integrated into ad factors, um, experience of other markets. So we will be open to those possibilities, but it is not like a clear cut plan so far.
Mm. It's also interesting, I think, that you're independent, obviously, in a market where there are really no independent PR firms of much size anymore, at least not homegrown independents. I mean, you have Edelman that is one of the top five firms in India, but it's not an Indian firm, right? Does it worry you at all that there are few um, domestic independents of any scale emerging on the Indian PR scene?
I think there are some showing good signs. There is Value 360, which is now going
Hmm.
public
Yep.
with a on a small board IPO, with a small board IPO, with what we call an SME IPO. There is
Hmm.
Kaizen, which is doing well. I'm sure there are many others, uh, and you find the entrepreneurial energy there.
Hmm.
quite
Yeah.
encouraging. And I hope there are 100 other firms like Adfactors tomorrow to cater to and serve the needs of the socio-economic growth that India will witness over a long period of time. We need a robust, homegrown, domestic, independent PR industry uh, uh, to cater to this effectively. And I
Mm.
sincerely hope this comes true.
Mm. At the Eco Summit, you said that you will continue in your role until you are 99, which was a very specific number, first of all. But of course, none of us can go on forever, not yet, at least. What does an ad factors look like without Madan Behel?
No, that of course was a joke, and I was mentioning the example of Harold Burson, who was visiting office till he was 98
Yeah.
and till he could. And I don't think I will live that long because of the excesses I've committed in life. But I will continue to work till I can, and I would rather be dead on my working table than be dead somewhere else.
Mm.
Uh, so that uh, commitment is there, and yet nature and time takes their toll, and you have to prepare organizations. But my
Mm.
idea of succession is not limited to having an individual or two. I don't have family members in the business. Neither my partner
Mm.
Rajesh Chaturvedi has, at least at
Mhm.
this point in time. Therefore, it is about uh, building a succession which has a slightly wider definition. It's not only about one or two people who come and take your position.
Mm.
That is a fragile system. You
Mm.
need a culture that can endure. You need values that bind people together. I think we are a slightly richer organization in that place.
Mm.
You need people who have a long term commitment, who have grown with the firm. I think we're doing quite well there.
Mhm.
You need rituals, you need processes, you need structure. It's a succession is a combination of many things. And I
Yeah.
think we are looking at all these factors when we are planning for succession.
Mhm.
The last thing is, uh, I mean, at factors, I mean, we have a view that will be we have been around for 28 years. Will be there for 14 more years? Definitely. What will happen in
Mhm.
2040 or 2038? Well, India will be a much bigger economy. It will probably be the second largest economy one day. India was the largest economy of the world till 300 years ago,
Mhm.
till everybody came and plundered it the way they plundered it and left it poor. Will it
Mm.
be the world's largest economy one day again? I am very optimistic. As Indians, we're very eternally optimistic. I'm optimistic it will one day find its place under the sun because of its rich cultural and social heritage.
Mm.
It will have the license to lead the world philosophically and culturally.
Mm.
Should that happen, we will want to be here till for a very very long time, and therefore we are preparing our leadership for 20 years, 15 years. We have something
Mm.
called the class of 2038,
Mm.
which means there is a bunch of some 50 leaders in that class who are being groomed every quarter or prepared every quarter to take on bigger responsibilities in life as time goes on. Madan Bahal or no Madan Bahal, Rajesh Chaturvedi or no Rajesh Chaturvedi.
Mm.
So we will remain independent because continuity and succession cannot come by selling it to a strategic partner or selling it to even a private equity, which will do God knows what they will do with the firm. It will
Mm.
have to remain independent in ways that can and in ways that can permit that independence to go on for a long time. So
Mm.
independence is a very important idea, and out of that succession will come.
Mm.
So we have solved many problems. We'll solve this also.
And finally, and not to get too morbid, but you mentioned you would be happiest if you went at your working desk. Whenever I see you, you are full of ideas for the business, for the industry. Obviously, you bring a huge amount of energy as the leader of Ad Factors. Is your whole life Ad Factors, or is there more to it?
No, my life is almost entirely ad factors. Uh,
Mm.
what was the whole idea of what you might call what gives you that energy and is problem solving. I
Mm.
find peace in problem solving, and in
Mm.
fact there are plenty of problems, my own problems, my people problems, client problems, and every day that I'm busy solving problems, I'm quite good.
Mm.
So I have rolled my entire life into one single idea: work. Work for me is work. Work for me is relaxation. Work for me is entertainment. And work for me is spiritual growth leading to salvation someday. So I
Mm.
have rolled everything into this idea. Of course, I do a little bit of reading. Do a little bit of yoga. The yogic concepts have helped develop a
Mm.
sense of positivity and equanimity. And you do your best, and then leave it,
Mm.
because there are larger forces of nature that determine the outcomes. But you have to do your best. Of course, I like going on holidays, and my idea of some adventure holiday all the time. Like a year or two ago, I went to Antarctica. Last year, I went to
Mm.
North Pole. This year, I'll go somewhere as crazy. So,
Mm.
so there's enough fun in life too.
Mm. Madan, thank you so much for your time and for your candor today. All the best to you. All the best to Ad Factors.
Thank you very much, Arun. I was very happy to be here, and all the best wishes to you and to all the viewers.
Thank you so much, Madan. That was great.